Introduce yourself and give a brief overview of your background.
I'm Nicole Williams. I'm Dr. Williams. I serve currently as the interim superintendent here in the St. Louis Public Schools. I've worked across this country in various roles. I started my teaching career about 35 years ago in New York City as a teacher and opened a middle school in New York City. And I have worked as a superintendent in 2 districts prior to coming to St. Louis Public Schools. I was here in St. Louis Public Schools in 2011 as the deputy superintendent for academics. And as part of that work, I was instrumental in working collaboratively with our union partners, AFT Local 420, our administrators unit, Local 444, and all of our teachers and our parents, our students, our leaders to move our district towards provisional accreditation.
What would you do to build trust and promote confidence in the superintendency in the district? Describe specific action you would take.
It's critically important to build trust and respect in this work. That's the only way I believe that we can do it. My core value is really focused on building a community of learners. Peter Senge talks specifically about an organization that learns together, works well together. So I believe in the power of team, and I do a lot of that work currently to ensure that we as a team feel intentional and thoughtful with a common purpose, engaged and focused in a way that moves our young people, our children, in every classroom, in every school across our district forward. The goal is to unlock the genius in every child, every day in every classroom, and so we work strategically and tirelessly as a team to do so. Part of that framework for me is really around accountability and really ensuring that every member of the team has what they need to do their job very well. And so that looks, specifically for me, it looks like support, coaching, mentoring, modeling. Right now, my cabinet, we spend about 2 hours every Tuesday in schools, working strategically to unpack deeper learning across our district. We're framing this work around this idea that deeper learning happens for children in classrooms purposefully and thoughtfully. And that work comes from every principal in the district, their leadership teams, our coaches, our assistant principals, our teachers. And so we're asking principals and their teams to define deeper learning. What does it mean to you? Right, as opposed to this ethereal notion that deeper learning should come from the district and we should mandate deeper learning. The shift is deeper learning comes from every classroom, from every child, from every teacher, from every learner. And what we're finding as we journey together on deeper learning, we're finding opportunities to learn about the learning. We are excited because what we're experiencing together, we're building lived and shared experiences, which is really what a team does, an effective team. And most importantly, we're focusing on the core purpose of our work, which is to ensure that every child in every classroom across our school communities have the opportunity to just be great in all that they do. And so that's what our goal is. Our goal is to know every child by their name, by their interests, by the things that make them excited, to ensure that we're teaching and providing opportunities for learning. You know, we talk about an achievement gap, but what I really believe is an opportunity gap. When we have opportunities in every classroom, opportunities in every school. Last night at our board meeting, we had a kindergarten student show her knowledge and share her joy in programming her robot. We had a 7th grade student share his excitement and his thinking, his deeper learning as he talked about how he programmed his robot to do specific things. And then finally we had a student, an 8th grade student, specifically talk about how STEM, how robotics, how science, technology, engineering, and mathematics makes him feel excited about learning. And so that's really what we're trying to do. center joy in our classrooms across St. Louis Public Schools. School should be fun. I should bounce out of bed in the morning as a child to want to be in school. I can't wait. Daddy, mommy, grandma, get me up, auntie, whomever, right? Get me up so I can get to school on time. And that's what we're really trying to do across our district for 19,000 students, to ensure that they have joy every day in their classrooms, that they are excited about learning, that we address any challenge that would be a barrier to their learning, making sure that they feel psychologically safe, that they feel intellectually safe, physically safe. All of those things are important. So part of our journey right now is a learning journey, a deeper learning journey as a team, building respect and rapport, understanding that the knowledge that our team brings to this work can only be enhanced by spending quality time in schools, learning about the learning alongside our leaders, alongside our teachers, alongside our students, as part of this work here in St. Louis Public Schools.
What experience have you had working within a community of diverse elements such as socioeconomic and educational levels, culture, race, and ethnicity?
So, as I framed earlier, I started my career about 35 years ago in New York City, very, very diverse school system, Crown Heights, at the height of the Crown Heights riots. So for me, I've always worked in environments where we have diversity in thought, diversity in background. I am bilingual. I speak a second language, and so I've worked as an English as a second language teacher in several environments. What I believe is critically important as we think about diversity, we have to center divergent thinking, but also ensuring that there's an opportunity to really understand and bring joy to the commonalities, what unites us, right? Oftentimes we focus on what divides us, but what unites us in a classroom. I'll give you an example. As a teacher, I had students from many parts of the world, and so something as simple as some of the foods that we eat in certain countries, right? Cassava is an example, but yuca is the same cassava in one part of the world, yuca in another, right? So once my students began to see, oh, you eat yuca, I eat cassava. It's still a ground provision in some parts of the West Indies, right? So understanding that it's not about what separates us, but what unites us. Right here in this country, many people from southern background eat something called grits, right? But if you're in Italy, it's polenta. It's the same food. So for me, while I've worked most recently in Illinois in a very diverse school system right outside of Chicago, I spent most of my career in New York City. I've worked right here in St. Louis, which is very diverse. What I recognize and understand, I worked and lived in Puerto Rico. What I recognize and understand that's so important is that children are our greatest resource. And helping them to think critically, to communicate, to collaborate, to create as part of an environment that brings joy, no matter what we look like, immutable characteristics like race and gender, my zip code, none of those things should define my outcome. And so my core value has always been, no matter where I serve as a servant leader, the work is critically important that children feel valued and respected. As a human-centered leader, I value all of my staff, 3,700 staff members. I value their divergent thinking. I value what they bring to this work. We just had a very powerful equity community of practice where we talked about the intersectionality of identities. And it doesn't matter where I come from. It doesn't matter what lived experiences I have. We all have the same common purpose: to teach all children well. And so I think while I celebrate that I've had diverse experiences across this country, as well as internationally, I lived in Europe, I lived in the Caribbean, so I've had very diverse experiences. I welcome divergent thinking because I don't believe that we can get better if there's a groupthink mentality. I welcome the opportunity for us to push. I come from a background, my graduate school talks about veritas, truth, right? And so for me, it's really about the intellectual discourse that moves us forward as a team to embrace diversity, to bring joy to the work, and to center our common purpose so that we can achieve excellence in all that we do.
What would you do to impact student achievement positively? Please discuss successful efforts to narrow or close identified achievement gaps in your current district.
So currently I serve as the interim superintendent. This is my 25th day. Prior to serving in this role, I returned to the district about 18 months ago. I served as the chief of staff. In 2011, I served as the Deputy Superintendent of Academics, where my core responsibility was to focus intentionally on learning and teaching. However, what I have come to realize in my 35 years of doing this work across this country is that the core purpose of every public education institution is learning and teaching. It has to be the center piece that focuses all of our efforts. Right now, we are working as a team, and I talked a little bit about our deeper learning journey. We're working as a team to really understand the learning in classrooms. We call it the instructional core, right? It comes out of the Harvard Public Education Leadership Project and the work of Richard Elmore and Sarah Fine and some of those really intentional thinkers. But the idea is the instructional core is what happens intentionally every day between the teacher, the student, and the content. As a former math teacher, for example, knowing my content well was important, but knowing how to deliver my content and getting my students to do the heavy lifting, right, the heavy thinking, that was the critical shift for me that 35 years ago I probably didn't realize, but now, as an interim superintendent, having served as a superintendent, having served in the role of deputy and so forth, I realized that the only way that we will see advancements in the achievement of the students that we serve is by supporting them and helping them to be better thinkers. We can't teach a child everything he or she needs to know, but we can teach them how to think. And so, for example, I shared a video of a young kindergarten student who was grappling at our leadership team meeting with about 170 or so people, all of our leaders across the district. And this young child was grappling with balancing an equation, right? And she was explaining why 0 was so important to that particular equation. And the only question that we asked was, why do you think that? Explain your thinking. And so for me, achievement will come when every child across our district has an opportunity to explain his or her thinking, to unpack the thinking in a way that really moves them forward as a learner. When they are given the opportunity to really take and defend a position, to argue from evidence, to center why I think the way I do, right? That is the power, that's agency in the classroom. And so the goal around academic achievement, from my perspective, has to be to support our leaders and support our teachers, support our parents, support our stakeholders in helping every child do the heavy lifting. I'll give you a quick example. I don't know if you go to the gym and work out, but we have many people who do. I need to do that soon. But in the gym, if you're in the gym and you have a trainer, and that trainer is lifting and showing you, then it's a spectator sport because his or her biceps are growing, right? Because you're watching as he or she engages in that motion. Oh, it's the same thing in the classroom. If the teacher is doing all the heavy lifting, meaning they're doing the 90% of the talking and students are they're listening, then we probably won't see the learning gains that we need. What I'm seeing in our district, and I'm celebrating and honoring the teachers and the leaders where we're seeing this deeper learning taking place, we're seeing teachers who are engaging our children in discourse. They're asking, well, why do you think that way? Well, what do you think, Nicole? And what do you think, Karen? Right? And really getting every student to contribute to the discourse, to the dialogue in that classroom. And that's the shift that we're seeing in our district. So I celebrate and honor and respect the work that's happening as I visit schools. It gives me great joy, quite frankly, to see and hear. We say, what do you notice? What are you wondering about? I notice the joy in classrooms. I notice that children are grappling with the complexity. We talk about Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, stretching my thinking. We're seeing that in classrooms across St. Louis Public Schools. We're seeing and hearing young people from pre-K to grade 12 defending their thinking, talking about the why in what they're doing. And so that's the powerful shift that we're seeing in St. Louis Public Schools. We are on a trajectory in pursuit of equity and excellence. We are at the precipice of greatness. And so what I envision as we continue to do this work, we'll see the scores. Right now, 37% of our third graders are reading on grade level. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. But the work that we're doing right now to ensure that young people have opportunities to learn, opportunities to deepen their knowledge, to have cognitive academic language, to be exposed to rich and valuable literacy experiences, that's what will shift our work. That's when we'll see the translation of what we're doing in our classrooms to our standardized assessment scores. I'm not fond necessarily of quoting E.D. Hirsch, but he did say something he said a lot of things very powerful around core knowledge and those things. But one of the things that really resonates with me is he says, passing the standardized assessment should be the byproduct of a good education. And so right here in the St. Louis Public Schools, our goal is to provide a high quality, world-class education where our young people are thinkers. The portrait of a graduate for us is every child a thinker, every child competent, every child knowing that he or she can stand with agency and advocacy, and they can communicate in more than one language. They think critically, they have collaboration skills and creativity, all of those things that we know are so important. And that's when we'll see higher levels of academic achievement on our standardized assessment. And we're there. We are on the right trajectory, and we will get there. We have the right team, we have the right resources in place to do this work and do it at the highest level. So I'm very proud of where we are currently.
Why do you want to be the superintendent of St. Louis Public Schools?
I frame everything I do from sort of this idea of why, right? And I prepared a very intentional statement about why St. Louis Public Schools. Most people know that my grandson started pre-K last year, and I came back to St. Louis Public Schools at that time as we looked for an environment that we felt would be would provide him with the opportunities to learn at the highest levels, to bring out the genius and unlock the genius in him. And so I see the world through the lived experiences that I've had. I was a single parent. I raised my son in New York City. I have a grandson. Now my son is raising his son, and certainly not as a single parent, thankfully. But what I see now is I want the exciting, the joyful, the loving, the thoughtful, intentional learning experiences that I'm seeing in his classroom and in classrooms across the St. Louis Public Schools. I love St. Louis. I keep coming back, even being away, I came back and I came back. What's going on with St. Louis? I was very proud when we achieved provisional accreditation, and so many people reached out to say thank you, Dr. Williams, for the work that you did to set us on the path to provisional accreditation. Working in collaboration with our labor management, our union, our partners. St. Louis for me I love it. I love the vibrancy of the city. I love the opportunities that are available for our young people. It's one of the few places in this country where a family can go to the zoo and not spend hundreds of dollars and just have such a rich, valuable learning experience. Our museums, our Dred Scott Courthouse, it's the epicenter, if you will, of so much of the rich, valuable opportunities to learn. The first kindergarten was right here in St. Louis Public Schools. Our schoolhouse is on the Mississippi River, right, where young people were learning to read. So we have such a rich, valuable history here, and I think for us, building up the narrative around who we are and what we believe and how important our resources, our children and our families are, that for me is the core purpose and my why for wanting to serve here in St. Louis. As I said, I've been in a number of school districts across the United States by choice. By choice. I chose to return to St. Louis Public Schools. I love it. I love the children. I love our families. I love our staff. I love the board right now and the composition of our board, their direction, their intentionality. They are purposeful. They are driven. They have a vision for our school district, and I want to be part of that work. I know that we will achieve excellence. I know that our district will be the district of choice for the children here in the city of St. Louis, and that's my goal, and that's my why.